In early October 2010, there were reports that people in rural Haiti were dying from what appeared to be cholera. It was unusual since cholera had not been in Haiti for over a century. I contacted a friend who lived in Port-au-Prince and asked him if the rumors of cholera were true. Yes, he replied immediately. It's from some of the MINUSTA troops, and the UN knows it. They've already shipped out the soldiers responsible. MINUSTA is the French acronym for the United Nations Stabilizing Mission in Haiti, the official peacekeeping mission that began on June 1, 2004, 3 months after a Western-backed coup d'etat. Early speculation in the West, of course, about cholera's origins deployed well-worn, stereotypical and racist tropes of Haiti's poverty and unsanitary conditions. However, affected local communities had already pinpointed the source, the UN Maye base, located a few meters from a stream flowing into the Artibonite River, the main water source for the surrounding villages. Local communities complained of large septic trucks regularly dumping fecal matter into the river. And an AP reporter based in Haiti went to the UN base, where at the back of the base, he saw, which was barely separated from the river, he saw broken PVC pipes that leaked black liquid into the river. How does one not read this desecration of Haitian villagers' land and water as also blatant disregard for them as human beings, and as an extension of war and occupation? Can we even imagine a UN outfit conducting itself in this way in a European village, in a white US or Canadian neighborhood? It took 3 years to bring cholera under nominal control in Haiti. And in that time, it is estimated that between 10,000 and 30,000 people had died from the terrible symptoms of the disease, and almost 1 million sickened. For 6 years, the UN denied responsibility for bringing cholera to Haiti, but reversed course in 2016, admitting its culpability and issuing an apology, but no restitution was offered. For Haitian people, the cholera epidemic is an extension of a totality of violence, material, political, ecological, enacted by the so-called UN peacekeeping mission. But I want to argue that this should not be only about demanding accountability and restitution from the UN for its attack on Haitian life and society. It is better to ask some more important questions. Why is the UN in Haiti? Why do the killing of tens of thousands of human beings by a foreign occupation force not garner global attention, much less empathy? The answers demand that we connect the UN's use as proxy for the US's illegal military occupation of Haiti to the social and political havoc that the UN has wreaked on the country. In fact, the establishment of MINUSTA in 2004 was itself dubious. MINUSTA took over from the US military occupation that began immediately after the US-Canada-France-backed coup d'etat. The coup was set in motion, for some of you who must know this. This coup was set in motion in 2003 when representatives from the US, France, and Canada met in Ottawa to figure out what to do about Haiti and Haiti's popularly elected president. No Haitian was invited to this meeting, which was called the Ottawa Initiative. This illegal coup d'etat was both enforced and cleaned up with the sanction of the UN Security Council, which took up the task of military occupation when it took over from US forces under the guise of established peace and security. Now, here I want to point to the critical role of the UN Security Council in this mission. On the same day of the coup d'etat, at the behest of the permanent members of US and France, the UN Security Council passed a resolution that authorized the immediate deployment of a Chapter 7 multinational interim force, presumably to help secure and stabilize the country. Chapter 7 is really when a country is at war. Haiti was not at war, but it also allowed an armed force to go into the country. Importantly, it would be used, this force, as a counter-insurgency mission against those who protested the coup in the presence of foreign troops. But just 3 days earlier, when CARICOM, which is the Community of Caribbean Communities, appealed to the Security Council for help of an international peacekeeping force to protect the Haitian presidency and Haitian sovereignty, France, a permanent member of the Security Council, flatly rejected the call. Now, a multi-billion-dollar operation MINUSTA has had at any given time in Haiti between 6,000 and 12,000 military troops and police stations throughout Haiti, alongside thousands of civilian personnel. And the UN occupation under MINUSTA was marked by its brutality towards Haitian people. In addition to cholera, the UN forces were used to quell real pro-democracy rallies of those who protested the coup. One such case is when hundreds of heavily armed UN forces invaded one of the poorest neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince and pumped 22,000 bullets over a couple of hours in a tiny space, killing scores. Peacekeepers also hated in Haiti for sexual exploitation, rape of young girls as young as 11, as well as boys, and homicides. And as recently as last year, the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti sued the UN for child support for the numerous children the soldiers fathered and abandoned to their young mothers. While it is claimed that this occupation officially ended in 2017, with the dissolution of MINUSTA, the UN has remained in Haiti through a new acronym, BINU. And BINU continues to have an outsized role in Haiti's internal political affairs. But what has also emerged with the UN's occupation through this peacekeeping scheme is also what's unique to Haiti, the core group, made up of representatives from Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, Spain, the US, the European Union, the Organization of American States, and the United Nations Organization. The core group plays an active and interventionist role in everyday political affairs in Haiti. What buttresses the power of the core group is its identity as an entity for the quote unquote international community, with a mandate sanctioned and continually renewed by the United Nations. What is also astonishing is the fact that this contemporary imperialism in Haiti and the United Nations peacekeeping apparatus as a brutal enforcer of this imperialism is the unwillingness to acknowledge its existence, even by contemporary scholars who travel and study and travel to Haiti regularly. How does a full military and political occupation remain under the radar and receive so little attention, political or otherwise, and intellectual engagement? Now, I want to offer two explanations as I end, and these will serve as provocations. In the first instance, we need to understand the contemporary guises and articulations of US and Western imperialism. In the case of Haiti, Western imperialism is funded by the United States and the United Nations, but organized through a multinational coalition that has included Canada, Brazil, France, Chile, the European Union, and the OAS. Secondly, we cannot underestimate the relationship of race and white supremacy, and particularly anti-Blackness and empire. For Haiti, foreign occupations have always been premised on the idea that not only was Haiti always on the verge of falling into chaos and anarchy, but with the deeply racist notion that Haitians are unable to govern themselves. Thus, for Haiti, occupation no longer needs US Marines as in the past. A multinational force or an international cohort of technocratic experts in security and democracy are just as willing to further the aims of Western imperialism. Thank you.